we go. Step number 1. Make sure the quadratic is set equal to 0 and in standard form. Is this bad boy set equal to 0? No. Sometimes it will already be. Sometimes you gotta make it equal to 0. This one is not set equal to 0. How do we set it equal to 0? Well, we draw a little waterfall down the equal sign. I look where my x squared is. It is right here, so I'm going to get everything over to the right side. We could also move everything over to the left side, but I don't want my a value to be negative, so I'm going to move everything to the right. Okay, so let's start moving. I'm going to start by subtracting 8. 10 is a like term, so we're going to subtract 8 from 10, leaving me with 12x equals 16x squared plus 2. Closer, closer, closer. Still not equal to 0. We still need to move the 12x. And we need to make sure we put it in the correct spot. Where will I put this? In the middle. So I'm going to do the opposite. It's a positive 12x, so I will subtract the 12x and I will place it in the middle, leaving me with 0 equals 16x squared minus 12x plus 2. And now my quadratic is equal to 0, and now I can begin the rest of the factoring process. Sometimes your problem will already be equal to 0, and you don't even have to worry about this. But sometimes you do have to do it. But that's step 1 done. Check mark. Yay. Step number 2. Figure out if you have a greatest common factor. The greatest common factor is the largest number you can divide all of your numbers by. 2. 2 is our greatest common factor. You can divide 16 by 2, 12 by 2, and you can divide 2 by 2. There isn't any number bigger than 2 that you can divide them all by. Now, sometimes there will not be a greatest common factor, and you don't have to worry about it. Sometimes there will be. In this problem, we can divide everything by 2. So we're going to divide everything by 2 and put that 2 out in front. So I'm going to have 0 equals 2 is my greatest common factor. And now I'm going to divide everything by 2, leaving me with 8x squared minus 6x plus 1. I've undone the distributive property. If you were to distribute 2 back through, it would be back to where it was. We did the opposite. We took out the 2. So we put it out front. That is your GCF step. Again, steps 1 and 2, you may not even have to do them sometimes. Sometimes you'll go right to step 3, but make sure you check that it's equal to 0. Make sure you check for a greatest common factor before you move on to the actual x method. So onwards and upwards. Step number 3. We need to write down what our a, b, and c values are, because we're going to use those to do the x method. So if we look over here, what is the value of a? 8. Just 8. A equals 8. We do not care about the variables. My b value is, careful. -6. Yep. And my c value is? Alright, that's it. Step 4. Or 3. Write down A, B, C. Got them. Now it is time to do our favorite part, and that is the x method. Draw your x. It says set up the x method. Multiply a and c and put it on top. What is a times c? 8 times 1, which is just 8. And then it says, and put the b on the bottom. B for bottom. Put -6 on the bottom. Okay. Now is the hardest part of every problem. That's step 4, done. Step 5. We need to find our factors. These are the mystery numbers that go on the side. These two numbers, if we read, must multiply together to get the top and add up together to get the bottom. Yes, Mars.
Wait, never mind.
We need two numbers that multiply to 8 and add up to -6. A good way to do this is off to the side. Off to the side, I will write my top number 8 and I will list its factors. What are the ways to make 8? 1, 8, 2, 4. Which of these is going to add up to 6? 4 and 2, but do we need them to add up to +6 or -6? Just make them both negative. If we make them both negative, now they multiply to 8 and they add up to -6. So our numbers on the sides are going to be -2 and -4, and it does not matter if you flip-flop the sides. Now in all caps I wrote down, don't forget to divide by the a value. We need to divide both sides by the a value. What was our a value? Divide both sides by 8. So you should take out your calculator. You are going to type in those fractions. Click Math, Enter, Enter, because we need them to be simplified. And this is our way of checking. I agree. -1/2 and -1/4. Those are our factors. Question so far. Step 5, done. So we have set it equal to 0. We have pulled out a greatest common factor. We have identified A, B, and C. We set up the X method. We found our factors on the left and right side. And now we are going to write our factored form. Okay, so this is how we write our first part of our answer. Watch closely. To write our factored form, we are going to put our left and right numbers into parentheses. Okay, so here we go. We have x minus 1/4.
Wouldn't it be 4x though?
You are right. We will do that in a second. We will swoop it. And we have x minus 1/2. We also had a greatest common factor of 2, which goes out in the front. And yes, precisely, we must make sure that we swoop the denominator. You're going to take the bottom number of the fraction and you are going to move it in front of the x. So our factored form final answer is going to be 2. 4x minus 1 and 2x minus 1. This is called our factored form. To find our solutions, because that's the end of step 6. That is step 6. We are done. That is our factored form. To find our solutions, our zeros, there is an official way to do it. The official way would be to set both of these equal to 0 and solve them, but there's a very quick way. As long as you write down and give yourself a note next to step 7, I need you to write down, flip the sign of your factors. Flip the sign of your factors. Our factors are those numbers we found in our x method. You just have to remember to flip them. My first one looks, the factor is negative 1/4, which means the solution is the opposite, positive 1/4. Negative 1/2 is my factor, so my solution would be positive 1/2. Does that make sense? To write our solutions, we just flip the sign of our factors. So positive 1/4 and positive 1/2. This is our factor form. These are our zeros or solutions. For every problem in your packet, you are finding both the factored form and the solutions. Look at how I write factored form. Greatest common factor with my two factors. My solutions are always written x equals a number, and there are always two of them. And you're done. We have factored and solved both the quadratic.